Let's rock and roll here. I'd like to call this meeting of the City of Yuba City City Council to order on June 16th, 2026. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Boomgarden.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pasquale.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Kirchner.
Present.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here. Meetings being held in the council chambers, which are open for public attendance and participation. The meeting will also be live streamed for public viewing, but not participation at the link identified in the agenda. Emailed comments sent and received by the city clerk at least 24 hours before the meeting were distributed by the city, or were distributed to the city council prior to the meeting. And we will be going into closed session. And Mr. City Attorney, would you mind reading the closed session items for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have two items for closed session this evening. We have item A, liability claim. The claimant is Jake Cartwright. Claim number 2622, agency claimed against the City of Yuba City. Item B is conference of labor negotiators. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, the agency designated representatives are Gina Rowland, Chief Labor Negotiator, Employee Organizations, Public Employees Union, Local 1 SCME 57, Police Officers Association, Police First Level Managers, and Police Mid Managers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? He's shaking his head no up there. So we will adjourn to closed session. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Yuba City Council on June 16th, 2026 back in session. This meeting is being held in the council chambers, which are open for public attendance and participation. The meeting will also be live streamed for public viewing, but not participation at the link identified in the agenda. Emailed comments sent and received by the city clerk at least 24 hours before the meeting were distributed to the city council prior to the meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Boomgarden.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pasquale.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Kirchner.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here. All right. Invocation is going to be led by Pastor Michael Ciasola Jr. from Calvary Christian Center. After that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Kirchner. Would you please rise?
I guess I got to turn that on. So grateful. Okay, perfect. Thanks for the opportunity that we have so regularly to come and conversate with our elected public servants before we have that conversation about goings on in our city, in our neighborhood, place that we love and call home. What an opportunity that we have in this moment to get some heavenly counsel, to come before the King of Kings and address him. I should invite all of us to pray together in this moment. Heavenly Father, we gather tonight. We're just days before celebrating 250 years of unprecedented liberty. And so we remember the men who pledged their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor. They were making a country in covenant with you. And your word declares, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. When they faced off with Great Britain, they prayed to you. When they debated and drafted our Constitution, they prayed to you. And so we're following their example right now. We're appealing to you for help. Every good gift comes from you. Thank you. Thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy and for the sacrifices made by Americans who secured and defended those freedoms. For the privilege that we have of living and serving this community that we call home. We're grateful. We want you to know we're grateful. We know that our liberty is not sustained by money or power or wits alone. We need your guidance. We need your favor. We need your help. Your word says that godliness makes a nation great, but sin is a disgrace to any people. So would you forgive us for the times that we trusted ourselves more than you? Would you forgive us for times that we neglected what is right and just? Turn our hearts to you and your ways that we might be a people worthy of the blessings you've entrusted to us, the blessings that so many laid down their lives to protect. We pray for those entrusted with leadership of our city, Mayor Mark Boomgarden, Vice Mayor Michael Pasquale, the members of our city council, Dave Shaw, Wade Kirchner, Tony Cole. God, would you just grant them wisdom for every decision? Would you give them courage to do what is right, humility to listen, integrity in their service and their lives? Thank you for the genuine concern they have for the people that they represent. Would you bless their families? Would you protect them from discouragement? Would you strengthen them for the responsibilities that they shoulder? May they govern with fairness. Would they promote promote peace in our community and seek the prosperity of our city? We pray for our first responders, our active duty, our educators, our businesses, the families of our community. Would you help us to be good neighbors, faithful citizens, people who value our freedom and our responsibility? We know our hope is not in politics or money or human strength. It's in you. So lead us in your righteousness. Deliver us from evil. Let your will be done here like it is in heaven. And may your blessing rest on our city, our families, and this nation. In the name of the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Kirchner. Thank you, Pastor, for those words. Let's back up. City Attorney's report on closed session items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had one reportable action on closed session. That was agenda item A. The council authorized a notice of rejection under the grounds of no merit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Agenda modifications, anything? Nothing? All right. Public communication, appearance of interested citizens is item number 1. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on action items appearing on the consent calendar or business items on the agenda when they are called. Public comment and any other items within the scope of the city's jurisdiction, including items not listed on the agenda, will be considered at this time. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment per speaker. Repetitive comments may be limited. Large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay, not seeing any. Move through.
May I take an indulgence for one moment for comments? Before Pastor Michael leaves, timely with the 4th of July coming up, you have a special speaker coming up on Founding Fathers. I believe it's the 20th. Would you just give us that information? Because it's basically looking forward to the 250th, and I thought it'd be good information.
So on the weekend of the 28th, we'll be hosting Rick Green. He's the founder of Patriot Academy, and he's closely connected with Wall Builders. If you've not heard of Wall Builders, it's the largest privately held collection of original founding documents and writings of our founding fathers. He's going to be coming out and giving an awesome talk on the founding and the faith of this country on the 28th. So if you can scratch that or circle that out, 10 a.m. over at Calvary. Rick Green is an awesome public speaker. He's also one of the youngest legislators elected in the state of Texas. He's a very patriotic, passionate man. And on Patriot Academy, if you got high school kids or grandkids, just look up Patriot Academy. It's civics camp. They've got a veterans track and they've got a student and young adult track. It's awesome what's happening, and I'm excited that we'll get to host him. So maybe I'll see you there.
Thank you. Sounds exciting. All right, next item up I was almost set up for bid. Next item up is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that the council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Anything from the council you want removed? Okay, anybody from the public wish anything removed from the consent calendar? Seeing none, bring it back to the council for action.
Through the mayor, move to approve consent calendar 2 through 9.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw, second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the consent calendar is approved unanimously. Our next items are the business items. Item number 10, which is the Outfall Diffuser project, bid phases services amendment. This will be presented by Kevin Bradford, our Deputy Public Works Director in Engineering. And Kevin, it's good to see you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may for a second, we have some folks, and I know this might be a little bit of a presentation, that are here for the last item on the agenda for tonight. And we didn't send out a memo to tell them to bring their sleeping bags. But I was wondering if you wouldn't mind bumping that up to your first item heard. It should be a fairly quick item, and I'm sorry to do that at the last minute, but out of a courtesy for those folks, it would be great if we could do that.
Seeing that I see those folks here, yeah, certainly we can do it. Item number 14 is what you're referring to?
And
Sierra?
Ms. Wakefield will be delivering
All
that
right.
item.
Community sponsorship request, the Walk to End Alzheimer's.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Robert just mentioned, I'm here tonight to present the community sponsorship request for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. Little background on the Alzheimer's organization. This event has occurred for the last 14 years in our community and will be scheduled again to take place on September 4th this fall, beginning at the Town Square Fountain on Plymouth Street. So they have requested $2,500 in sponsorship for the walk this year. So this is a unique, kind of timing on this request because we are bridging 2 fiscal years. So you'll hear when the next presentations come up, the recommendation for the fiscal year 26-27, which is next fiscal year beginning July 1st. The 2 accounts that we typically use to budget for these types of sponsorships, the recommendation in this year's budget proposal is to eliminate those funding sources. So that being said, if the council would like to consider this sponsorship request, even though the event occurs in September, which is next fiscal year, we do have some funding still available in our accounts from this fiscal year. So I outlined that here. If you were to utilize those funds or encumber those funds this year to pay for next year's event, you could do that. And this would be my recommendation on that. We would wipe out basically the balance of the community events account and spend an additional $800 from the community contributions account, leaving $6,400 balance in that community contribution account. But at this point to date, we've received no other sponsorship requests for this fiscal year. And so that money that is sitting in that account at this point has no purpose. So the alternatives would be to authorize the sponsorship in a different amount or not to approve the monetary sponsorship at all. And my recommendation would be to consider the request from the Alzheimer's Association, the Walk to End Alzheimer's Downtown. And if you decide to go forward, I would just ask that you provide guidance on where you want that money to come from and, whether it's this fiscal year, next fiscal year, and some of those details need to be determined. But if you choose to move forward, the second piece of the recommendation would be to adopt a resolution approving the sponsorship request in the amount of $2,500 for the Walk to End Alzheimer's in Yuba City on September 5th, 2026. And again, this is contingent on the passing of the budget proposal, which is still on the agenda to come. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And I would also like to add to that, if I may, Mr. Mayor. So I would recommend that it's something that's frequently done with budgets at the end of the year to where you encumber an amount. So there's funds that are available this year. The request was received this year. However, the expenditure occurs in the next fiscal year. So if you do make a motion to approve, I would ask that you provide direction to staff to encumber those dollars in the current or the upcoming budget from the current budget, and that's where it will be paid from. So it won't affect the upcoming budget materially. And as Ms. Wakefield mentioned, for next year, we're recommending, which you'll hear in a little bit, the pausing of those community sponsorships due to budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
I've got a question. The 2,500, how critical is it for this to come, the walk to come about with this money? Is it a substantial portion of the budget for your walk that if you didn't have this, your walk wouldn't happen? Well, yeah.
Would it be possible to adjust the council's volume? We're older over here. We can't quite hear you guys. I don't know if it's possible to turn up just a bit. Thank you.
I'm just having a hard time hearing from the other microphones.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Alicia Stewart. I am the walk manager for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And you had asked how critical is the funding. The money that is received, that $2,500 would go towards our entire walk, but it's not just the walk day, it's the resources that we provide our community. It's also supporting the research, the care and support, our 24/7 1-800 number that a lot of people in our community use. It also supports all of the projects that we do, including our Alzheimer's Aware school club that we have, as well as the actual event. So it is critical. Every last sponsorship is critical. Every dollar goes towards all of that. The Alzheimer's Association is the nonprofit that we are under, and 80% of all of the funding that we provide goes to the research, advocacy, care and support of those that are living with and caring for individuals with Alzheimer's and or dementia.
Thank you for the very clear answer. That's exactly, okay, great. An answer.
Any other questions from the council? Any comment from the public? Okay, back to the council for action.
Through the mayor,
Yes.
move to take and approve item 14.
And for purposes of clarification, would that include the recommendation on encumbrances and the funds
Yes.
identified Sierra? Thank you.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Pasquale, second by Councilmember Kirchner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, item number 14 passes. There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, I'd like to reintroduce item number 10, the Outfall Diffuser Project.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Item 10 before you tonight is an authorization to proceed with bid phase services for our wastewater treatment plant Outfall Diffuser Project. I know there's some items behind me that I need to rip through this pretty fast, but I'm happy to be interrupted and answer any questions you have or circle back at the end if necessary. Just a quick refresher is we have on this location map our wastewater treatment plant here in red behind Blackburn Tally Park on Burns Drive. The purple is our existing conveyance facilities to an existing diffuser at the river, and in blue, the effluent disposal ponds on the east side of the river. And then the orange line is our proposed outfall alignment that brings us here tonight. Okay, so this slide encompasses about 15 years of effort by a lot of people at the city, working really hard to advance this project. To summarize it, in 2011, the Shanghai Falls eroded, and that did two things. It left our existing diffuser high and dry. That is not acceptable for discharging directly to the river. It also wiped out our delivery pipe to the effluent disposal ponds. The city implemented an emergency project in 2012 and replaced that pipe to deal with the outfall diffuser and getting that into a location where it has sufficient submergence in the river. We entered into a contract with Jacobs Engineering in July of 2018. Actually, it was CH2M Hill at the time. They've now been bought out by Jacobs. And that was for design, right-of-way, and permitting services. Let's see. Go forward. So the original contract was about $2.8 million back in July of 2018. That was just a few of the tasks were authorized at that time. Since then, council has authorized 5 different amendments totaling about $1.9 million. And Amendment 6 tonight is about $614,000, bringing the revised contract to about $5.3 million. And if you're like me, you kind of gag on that number a little bit. And I did some background and looking at rules of thumb, and generally design services run about 10 to 15% of the estimated construction cost. 5.3 million puts us at about 13%. So we're right in that range of 10 to 15. And for a project that's been drug out for about 8 years, the chances of being at the low end of that range is pretty slim. So I feel like this is a pretty competitive number. What does $614,000 get you? It gets you the original task 5 in the original contract, which is the bid phase services. And the big one I want to point out is the very first one about contractor pre-qualification. That's an activity that we don't really do a lot on our projects, but given the nature of installing a diffuser in the river channel, we don't want just any contractor working on this. We want one who is, number 1, safe, number 2, familiar with a marine environment, and number 3, familiar with complying with some very substantial permit requirements. So we'll go through that process first before we even come back to you to authorize advertisement for the bids. There's also some additional work items that we basically have already authorized and used previous budget authority. We've been successful in securing an SRF loan. We don't have the actual funding agreement secured yet. We expect that in November, but it's a $50 million loan, which could basically cover the entire cost of the project if we're fortunate enough. There's a lot of different items in here. The additional bathymetric surveys, those are basically surveys of the river channel. And back in 2017, when the Oroville Dam failed, we've got a slug of sediment that's moving its way down the river channel. So it's basically tracking that and making sure that where we put this new diffuser is still the right location, and change it if we need to at the last minute. I apologize for the busyness of this slide, but I wanted to give you an update on the schedule. Assuming that you approve this amendment tonight, we should wrap up the, let's see if I can. We should wrap up the easement acquisition, permitting, and bid documents by November and come to you with approval of the plans and specs and authorization to advertise for bids. We would do that bid process over the winter with the idea of potentially awarding a construction contract in March. The construction period we would expect to run from August of 27 to August of 29, long-term project, and then we'd have some testing and startup at the end of 2029. The cost estimate is This is almost a year old now, but it was then at 41 million. The construction contingency is estimated about 4.1. Soft costs like construction management and inspection, environmental mitigation, et cetera, is about 8.8 million. And you might hear in conversations about a $60 million project. How do we get there? That's basically the 47.2, which is the upper range of the cost estimate, plus the contingency, plus the soft costs. That gets you about 60 million, but it could be lower. The SRF funding agreement, as I said earlier, is anticipated in November of 26. So fiscal impact, we're requesting about $614,000 for Amendment 6 to the Jacobs contract. There's currently about $350,000 available in the CIP account. Our recommendation is to retain that $350,000 for, we have one remaining easement acquisition. We have 2 extensions of temporary construction easements that we need to pay for. I put permitting in there, but really that's mitigation. So that's paying a mitigation bank for any environmental impacts, and then some miscellaneous expenses and staff time. So our recommendation is to transfer that full $614,000 from unallocated wastewater. One alternative would be to postpone the project until that SRF funding agreement is in hand. I don't really see that as very critical, because you have 2 other big opportunities to control whether this project moves forward. One is at the time of authorizing us to advertise for bids. If we don't have the funding agreement in hand at that time, you don't feel comfortable moving forward with advertising, then we don't advertise at that time. The other big thing, and we've done this on multiple SRF projects in the past, is that you can not award the contract if the SRF funding agreement is not in place. You can also award it contingent upon the SRF funding agreement being finalized, which we did on the Berry School water line a few years ago. So with that, our recommendation is to adopt a resolution that authorizes Amendment 6 to the professional services agreement with CH2M Hill Engineers, and to authorize the finance director to transfer $613,883 from unallocated wastewater funds to CIP account 981156. We'll go back. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. To the council, for any questions for Mr. Bradford? All right. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the council for potential action.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to approve business item 10, A and B as recommended by staff.
Second.
All right, have a motion by Councilmember Kirchner, second by Councilmember Shaw. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 10 passes unanimously. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Council.
Let's get that thing built. All right, number 11, General Fund Contingencies Policy F-1 and General Fund Reserves Policy F-2. This is presented by our City Manager, Mr. Robert Bendorf.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'll try and get my voice adjusted to where at least you can hear it if I don't lose it. So the item that's before you tonight was worked on quite a bit over the last year with Director of Finance, Deanna Pope. She couldn't be here tonight due to a family issue, but it was also worked on by Kalacia Bird with our finance department. Where she was here? Oh, there you are. In finance as well. And so we really appreciate the hard work that went into this, because it is a little bit of change, if you will. So what was our purpose? So by way of background, your reserve policies were really contained for the most part in your cash balance. It was through a concept called Healthy City Reserves. Nothing wrong with that concept at all. But I think when you put anything into a separate fund or such as reserves, or you keep it in a cash balance, if you will, there's risk associated with it. And I think there's greater risk associated with being in the Healthy City Reserves. Just by the way it was set up, I think it served a purpose. But when you have difficult, challenging budget years, sometimes what that does is it creates in your cash some liquidity issues. So as you start off the year, the strongest and most revenue that we receive, the strongest line item and the most revenue is our property tax. But as you all know, we don't receive property taxes until usually end of December-ish, January, and then they're on the books in January, and then we receive them again in April and May. And that's after Sutter County gets done processing all the payments, and then they send it over to us. But the timing for them to receive revenue is the same as us. It doesn't change. So where those reserves have been kept in the cash balance, it doesn't really represent a comprehensive citywide approach. And so our approach is that try something different and offers some more transparency of calling out reserves in its own fund. Its own fund that's kept separate and apart. While they're general fund reserves, it's not in your operating budget, if you will. It's placed there and can be carried over from year to year. And we'll get into some of the specifics about some of that. To wrap it up on where it has been with Healthy City Reserves, if you don't get your property tax until halfway through the year, you're spending money. It's payroll related to the general fund and other things that the city does for its citywide services, parks, recreation, et cetera. So you need that cash moving forward. But heaven forbid if you have an emergency, say in August or September, when you could be negative cash balance of several $1 million. Where do you go to get those emergency reserves if something happened? So in the effort of transparency and the effort of making sure we have liquidity also, and begin adjusting that to where it's in a better position, and we call out the reserves available for your council, we think we're better off. So here's what we did. So this will adopt some formal policies. Well, there was formal policies with Healthy City. This separates it, and this will go into administrative policy and procedure document, which is currently being developed. So contingency funds. That's policy F1 that we're introducing. That's for emergency and unplanned expenditures. In the past, it's been around maybe 100,000, maybe a couple 100,000. We're recommending 500,000, and we'll tell you where that's coming from when we do the budget discussion, but this is just the policy piece. It's a funding goal of 2% for general fund operations, and basically would require a 4/5 council approval to remove monies of contingencies. So let's say, for instance, if Josh had a $60,000 project that was funded, and whether it was state or federal or local, but it needed another $4,000 or $5,000, something came up at the very end, we would, if there wasn't money available in his budget, another spot to take it from, we would prepare something and come ask for contingency amount to be transferred. But this has got to last you throughout the year. You don't want to spend every ounce of it because you want it to maybe carry over. But that's the primary purpose for contingencies. Are those basic items, could be some emergency or unplanned issues. The general fund reserves really promotes that long-term fiscal stability I was talking about. And I think over time, it'll give us greater liquidity in our cash, but also calls out reserves separately. We've established a reserve goal at 15%, and that's all laid out in your staff report. And introduces this, 4/5 council vote required, as I mentioned, with contingencies. So this is probably the slide that I think explains it best. You have a current general fund balance that fluctuates, right? So that's in your cash. Reserve amounts can be difficult to track, and less visibility into reserves for your constituents and for the council themselves. So the future of what we're proposing and all the work that's been done on this was we have dedicated reserve tracking, so you know where you stand at all times, improved transparency and monitoring, and stronger fiscal oversight and planning. So what we're recommending to you tonight is our contingency policies and our reserve policies as listed there. And I'm going to go back one more so you can see it again. I don't have an alternative for you. I don't want to give one. So anyway, that's it.
All right, bring it back to the council for any questions for Mr. Bendorf.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Not so much a question, but Mr. Bendorf, thank you for bringing this forward because I know that the mayor and myself have been up here over 7 years, and this explains a lot of the things as we've navigated through the budget because we do fund accounting in the governmental side, but the fund was all in one big cash pot. And what you have brought forward with the financial team is going to set us up for the future to succeed and make sure that the money is always there. And so I just want to say thanks.
Okay, you bet. And we'll keep building it up to where it reaches those target goals. Hopefully it'll take us a shorter time to get there than a longer time.
I would echo those comments. I think that the journey that we've been on over the last 7 years, but through COVID and budget reductions, this gives us a lot more visibility on what we actually have as reserve versus the cash flow implications that you chatted about. So I enthusiastically support this. I think it's fiscally conservative and fiscally appropriate as well. So any public comment? Seeing none, back to the council for action.
Through the mayor, I move that we approve both general fund contingency policy F1 and general fund reserves policy F2 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw and a second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing and hearing none, that item number 11 passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bendorf. Number 12, adoption of fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget and the capital improvement plan. And this will be started off by Mr. Bendorf.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Before I get started on the presentation, you all know a little bit of the history. We started working on this pretty much after we adopted the current fiscal year budget. We had a little work to do. And I will tell you, when I say we had a little bit of work to do, that's all these folks out here. I know a couple department heads aren't here tonight, but as an executive team, they worked together very well in coming up with solutions that to reach an outcome that appeared unachievable. And I think they've done just an incredible job. And I can't thank them enough. There was one creative idea after another creative idea. It wasn't popular that we were cutting budgets so much more, but they realized the task at hand to make Yuba City healthier from a fiscal perspective, that we need to look at everything. And I was very proud of all their actions. I'd also like to mention finance taking the lead of putting documents together that are before you tonight, and their creativity as well. And Joe's here, Kalacia, and of course, Deanna, who couldn't be here tonight. She did say that she was going to be watching, though, so. So anyway, here we go. But they just did a great job, and finally, I want to thank the chair and the vice chair. You know, last year I had a little bit of a change with Mayor Shaw at the time, now with Mayor Boomgarden, and then, of course, Vice Mayor Pasquale. So your input was very valuable, not only from last year, but this year as well, making sure we shape the right budget for you all. So going to go over the budget process, ad hoc workshops that we did, and we didn't do a workshop this year, and I wanted to mention that. We were really focused on making sure that we had a right-sized budget, and there was a lot of things that we were trying to put in alignment with our revenues that we have available. We bypassed the workshop, we intensified our meetings with the ad hoc committee, and here we are. So for the general fund, as you know, my philosophy is your general fund is your heartbeat of your budget. It focuses around, or wraps around the entire budget. If you look at the entire budget for the city, it's about $126 million. About half of that is your general fund budget, so around $62 million. And people say, what do you mean by general fund budget versus non-general fund budget? Well, your general fund budget encompasses those departments where a majority of your discretionary revenue goes to. That's the best way to sum it. That's not always the case, but police, fire, administration, and a few other parks and rec, or community services, those are all typical general fund departments. The ones that aren't, you have your enterprise funds, which, water, wastewater, you have your internal service funds, you have special revenue funds, et cetera. Now, we've made some changes throughout the course of this year, but it still all totals up, and the budget that we're recommending to you is just a shade over 126 million. And we'll talk about the general fund budget component of that, which is really at the core of your upcoming fiscal year budget. So, as you know, last year was the current fiscal year, about a $6.2 million structural deficit in your general fund. You heard me say that one step at a time. You didn't get here overnight, so you're not going to resolve these overnight as well. So no panicking, no setting our hair on fire or anything. We just have to walk it through step by step. And so we have done that, and I'll tell you how we got to the point we're at tonight. So we'll talk about some of these rising costs. I don't need to go over every one of those. Okay, you're thinking $6.2 million last year. Then I tell you, it was last year, or current year. In the upcoming year, it's actually 7.8. Well, why did it increase so much? Well, we use one-time funds to balance the current year budget of 6.2. And then you have cost increases that we estimate for the upcoming year that added to the total of approximately 7.8 million. So that was our real number in the general fund that we had to tackle. Your major cost drivers, as you can see here, it's not friendly, if you will. Just look at the UAL, the unfunded liability portion of our costs. Just in 23-24, it was right at about 6 million, and now it's a shade over 10 million in just a matter of 4 fiscal years. Same way with health. Well, it doesn't seem like a big increase. It goes from a little over 4 million up to about 5 million, give or take. So it's tough. Workers' comp, liability, same type of thing. But you add all those up, those are just some of the major cost drivers, let alone some of the other ones that supplement those. Cost of chemicals, cost of supplies, labor, contracts going up to do, public projects, et cetera. So how are we doing on our revenue? Again, what's listed here, and you've seen it before, but these are your general fund discretionary revenues. So if your council wanted to say, hey, we're going to give all this general fund discretionary revenue to, we're going to give it to Doug this year, and he gets it all. Council could do that. Now, you may not be in office much longer because you're going to take away money from police and fire, but that's your discretionary revenue. And it's meant for you folks to decide what your priorities are, where you want to put that money. Or I always call it investing that money. So you have a little bit of growth over the past 4 years, but nothing that really sustains your cost of business increase. And which makes it kind of difficult, right? People experience cost increases in their household budget. You heard me mention the McDonald's hamburger analogy 10 years ago. It was maybe $2.50. Now it's one to $1.50 for just a McDonald's hamburger or cheeseburger or whatever it is, and it's increased from $2.50 to $3. So insurance costs that we pay, car insurance, homeowners insurance. You've all read the horror stories. These are cost increases that real people face every day. We're in the business of providing a service, and those costs increase. It's not like they decrease. We try and find the best way to deliver those services with the resources we have, and that's the general fund discretionary resources that you have. So you see some minor changes here, but ultimately, it's about an additional $900,000, which really isn't a lot at all for your general fund revenue. And it can be frustrating at times, certainly, but we're hoping that some of the estimates get a little bit better. They were certainly in 23-24 a little bit overstated. We got them back down to reality, and then we've had some wild twists and swings this year with like sales tax, but we're getting there. As you can tell, it's coming in slightly lower, and a lot of those were some adjustments and recommendations made by our tax consultants. So what about general fund non-discretionary or semi-discretionary revenues? So those are things like grants, fees, cost allocation charges, that the costs for a non-general fund department to operate, like say water and wastewater, they pay their fair share for HR, for administration, which includes council, city manager, lawyer, all that other good stuff. So, and then just general services. Now, some of this can be semi-discretionary, it can be used for some general fund purposes, but not very often. So you combine those two, and your revenue that comes in from non-discretionary, from those categories, and then your discretionary revenue, it's about $60.1 million. That's for your general fund revenue. So you say, hey, what about the cost? What about all the expenses to run these departments? So here you have it. As you can tell, public safety, about $39 million is what we're proposing. It's a shade over what we proposed last year. And I have heard the comment that, City Council, are you really investing in public safety? I'll show you a little percentage chart in a minute, but you can see where most of your discretionary revenue goes. And it goes to public safety. So this is everything. This is all the general fund expenditures, discretionary, non-discretionary, semi-discretionary. But they need is $62 million. I'll go back. You only have 60.1. Well, at least what we could scrape up anyway. So there's a shortfall. So last year, the adopted budget, we carried a projected deficit in the general fund of $6.2 million. This year, it's only well, I don't want to say only, that's not right for me to say that. This year, it's roughly 2.2 rounding, but cut it by about 60-something%, about 65%, what that structural deficit is. So your discretionary general fund revenue, $42.2 million is what's recommended. The net city general fund operational needs are 44.4. So, and that's your general fund deficit that we're working with. And I'll show you how we shore that up here in a few minutes. But where does your money go? Your general fund discretionary revenue that we're recommending that your city council allocate, if you look at it by way of percentage, it really tells a story. So your top three are public or police department, fire department, and community services. So if you think about that for a second, 81.5% of all discretionary revenue that your council has control of, you're providing it to public safety to make sure our residents are safe. And they actually receive a benefit of having, our firefighters, our police department doing their work every day. Not that everybody's work isn't important, it is. But this is your police and fire that I've heard from your council several times, and through our strategic planning efforts, that it is a priority. So your next category is community services, parks and recreation. And we had some increases in fees this year. It comes nowhere close to covering the cost at all. And it's a council decision whether you want to keep covering those costs. Our recommendation is that we provide about $3.7 million for community services, and that's your next heavily funded department. Again, that's parks, recreation, et cetera. So your next is administration. Non-departmental type things, matches, MOEs that we have to make. Finance, HR, administration, so attorneys, city manager's office, council, it's about 7.5%. If you look at grants that you apply for, or you look at other agencies, it can be 10 to 15%. In fact, sometimes 15 to 20% of what your overhead administration cost is. Ours is 7.5%. That is more than reasonable. And as you know, through some of the budget planning, we're going through a few reductions this year that are going to cut services for administration to the other departments, but we don't have a choice. So again, those are your big drivers, and you can see where the other money is invested as well. Now, like I said, at some of these community conversations, it's not Chief Runyon or Chief Hubbard's faults. They don't have these golden palaces with all these, hundreds of employees. They're working on minimal resources, but they're running an expensive business. I mean, just even buy a fire truck, an engine like that, $1.5 million is what it costs, let alone the fuel costs and the job that they do and the workers' compensation. I mean, they're not physically averse jobs, right? So it's tough to manage and it's expensive. And they do a great job managing within the resources they have. So how do we balance that roughly $2 million gap? So carryover funds, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but it's about $784,000. We're projecting, so we haven't closed the books, and that's why it's always difficult to present. We don't know what our carryover balance is going to be yet. We're estimating maybe 5.3. We'll have some things to pay out of it in the 13th month, a little bit of the 14th month is what they call it. But right now we feel comfortable in using $784,000 out of the carryover funds. That's money that's not spent in the previous year from the general fund. The pension stabilization fund of about $900,000, which will bring our balance down to about 3.2, which is still respectable. But that's why that money's put aside, is to fund those, unfortunately, motions that PERS costs take that are sometimes a little bit beyond our control. And then we have ARPA interest that has come from the ARPA funds we received, and this will close that out using that interest. But these are one-time monies. We still have a structural deficit, but roughly your structural deficit was pretty much reduced by about 66%, and that includes cost increases going into the upcoming fiscal year. Pardon me for a second. I'm going to get there, you watch. So I might have our HR director, Gina Rowland. You can start coming up here because you're up next, I believe. Oh, there, you're already there. Wow, beat me to the punch. So, but I'll start off with these slides and we're going to talk a little bit about a few things related to our strategic planning. So this is a summary, just a snapshot of what we're going into with the upcoming fiscal year. So in the 25-26 current budget year, you have about 350 allocated positions total. That's citywide. That's not just general fund. The final number that we're coming to you with is 330. So we are deleting close to 20 positions, actually deleting a few more than that. But by way of magnitude, this isn't a pretty sight. You have limited resources, no money to really restore positions, but we are getting as creative as we can. But we need to bring it down to reality too. And that reality goes beyond what's here in this slide. It goes here. So we are adding some new positions. We're retitling some new positions. We have to conduct business the way we feel to get the best services out to our residents that we can. Sometimes that's a title change, a job change, or whatever. You're familiar with this year, we, in a sense, laid off, but we transferred positions from our Parks and Recreation. 3 of the parks folks, I believe it was 3, went to Public Works. They had openings there. They applied. They were qualified for them. We were able to keep them in jobs for our employees. In the same way with Recreation, I believe one of them, 2 supervisors, I believe, were deleted from Parks and Rec. And we're still working with folks to find placement for them. One we have placed temporarily with some added duties. So 12 unfunded positions are still going to remain on the books. And the total that we did delete was about 34.6. It's a big number of what you're not able to afford because of revenue that's not coming into the city, bottom line, and increasing costs. Not an easy thing to balance. So ongoing fiscal and operational reviews. We have been reevaluating our lease program for our vehicles, which has proven to be, well, I'm just glad it's being looked at. but we feel there's some significant savings. We're trying to right-size our vehicle replacement fund, which you'll see some of the recommendations later about some of that funding. We are improving our liquidity and cash flow, which I covered. We've made some fee adjustments already. There are some more coming. Community conversations that we've had, surveys and priorities, and I have to really commend your council. So since I've been here about a year and a half, I don't even know how long, feels like a year and a half. But I've noticed and I've gotten very much used to your priorities and what they are as individuals, but also as a council. And I will tell you everything I heard at our strategic planning and what I see today. And what I hear from our constituents is our city council is in tune with our residents. We may not be able to afford everything, but when it comes to roads and public safety, same thing you folks talk about and emphasize to me all the time are the same things hundreds of folks are communicating in those surveys that are their priorities. So there is great alignment there. Great alignment with your strategic planning, great alignment with what you communicate to staff, and great alignment with what's in your budget. Then, of course, we have our strategic plan, and you'll hear more about that tonight. So that's one of the things we incorporated. We just didn't want it to sit on a shelf. And so you're not going to hear from me. Well, you'll hear from me a little bit more, not much. But what you're going to hear from is our department heads that work within those focus areas that you have. And the first one we have up is workforce excellence. Then after that, Gina will introduce public safety. We'll talk about economic development. We'll talk about infrastructure. We won't be hearing with community services. They've been up here a lot this last year. So we're giving Ann a break. And we are also, Phil couldn't be here tonight, but you'll hear a little bit about water and wastewater from Josh. So having said that, I want to turn it over to Gina and talk a little bit about workforce excellence. Let me get this out of the way, I'm sorry.
So as you know, the strategic plan has 5 different strategic focus areas. And within the workforce excellence strategic focus area, there are 9 action items within 5 priority areas. And during the present fiscal year, we were able to work on 3 of those action items, including a focus on implementing technology enhancements. So we've made quite a bit of progress on implementing our new HR information system for payroll and human resources, Tyler. We plan to go live in October with that system. And again, we've made great progress there. We also have worked on enhancing the city's recruitment and selection methods, which is the 4th bullet there, and I'll come back to that. And another area that we accomplished this year that actually isn't on this slide, but we were able to develop a skill bridge internship opportunity for transitioning service members from all branches of the armed forces. So we haven't found the intern yet, but we have that posted on our website. So priorities that will continue into the new fiscal year will be continuing the technology enhancements with the information system. We'll be focusing on the priority area of enhancing employee retention by creating a workforce excellence committee to explore and recommend best practices for employee development and retention. We're also we'll be working to create a comprehensive employee recognition program. And again, we'll continue to evaluate and implement creative recruitment and selection methods. One thing we wanted to add is during the present fiscal year, we've had a hiring freeze in place that required a department to request approval to fill a position with the city manager. And if the city manager approved, then the department came to the city council to request approval for HR to conduct a recruitment. That was that was proved to be effective in achieving salary savings by delaying the filling of positions. So we'd like to continue that process with city manager approval, but we would like the city manager to have the approval for HR to conduct the recruitment and not require city council approval. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Runyon.
Beef.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So as far as the police department's concerned, we had, looking into this next year, we had to make some additional reductions to make things work. So we looked at 5 positions that we are unfunding for this year. 4 of those are sworn positions, and 1 of those are dispatcher positions. I'd say currently right now that actually those positions, minus the dispatcher, are actually filled, but through retirements, we're going to get to that number here in the next couple of months with planned retirements. So, but the name of the game for us has really been, hey, how do we just continue to provide the same service or the best service we can with what we got? As you know, last year we had to make some reductions in some of the services that we did provide. But that's just a continual conversation with us, is just trying to be creative with the resources that we have. So included in this budget, though, is in our strategic plan, one of our big projects is our CAD system upgrade. That's our computer automated dispatch and records management, which is really the core program that we use at our police department. But in looking at some of our revenues that are essentially over the last couple of years have come in a little bit higher, but they're usually used for equipment, things like that. And a lot of them are specifically for those types of items. But fortunately, we were in a position that we have enough one-time monies to apply towards getting this new records management system, which is a major upgrade for the police department across the board. Dispatch, records, patrol officers. It's a need, and it also goes towards a critical piece if we're ever going to move forward towards any type of regional dispatch or real-time information center within the region. We really had to get that core component going with the CAD system, which one of the biggest features is the data sharing with other agencies, specifically Yuba County Sheriff, and then there's agencies in Butte County that all use the same system, Colusa County, where that data sharing is going to be a huge upgrade for us. So that was a project that even despite our circumstances, we're going to try to push forward with on this budget. One of the other big things that happened in this last year is our regional narcotic task force, Net 5, was disbanded. And we created a special investigation unit at the police department. So what has happened is Yuba County has, they've formed their own team over there, and they're concentrating those types of efforts on their side of the county. And over here on the Sutter County, we've collaborated with the Sheriff's Department and created basically the same type of unit, but just focused on Yuba City and Sutter County. But we were able to save some costs by bringing it in-house, lease payments, things like that. Fortunately, we had the room within our building to house that unit. So we kept those partnerships going, which are important, but we're able to save some costs as well and focus our efforts just to this area, because as we all know, this area has grown quite a bit over the last 40 years that Net 5 was in existence, and now we're just going to concentrate on our side. So we're just going to continue to make those partnerships, because in this area, those are important to keep our community safe, and it's how we get things done often when we don't have, not when everyone has the resources to make things happen like we'd like them to. We have to work together. Yep. Fire.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. First off, just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to stand up here today and wear the uniform that I get to wear and represent the group that I get to represent at the fire department. Kind of just wanted to talk about some of the initiatives, some of the challenges and accomplishments of the group. And starting off right there, Chief Runyon talked about the CAD upgrade enhancements for the police department. We're also looking at as the strategic plan for the fire department to modernize our emergency response systems through CAD enhancements with tablet command implementation and improve incident management strategy technologies. When we start talking tablet command, it has our group very energized and very excited. This is going to be a huge operational upgrade to our group. It'll improve our services, our response, and our accountability. So our units, when they're responding to emergencies, will have real-time access to maps, pre-plans, and any critical information that's being shared and relayed by dispatch. It'll streamline information sharing. CAL FIRE, a lot of the large agencies all across California are switching to tablet command. The information sharing is going to be very pivotal for our area and for our growth. And it'll really support the safety of our personnel on scene with our captains and our chief officers when they're handling emergencies. Another one of the initiatives as part of the strategic plan is upgrading our fire station alerting systems to improve reliability, response efficiency, and firefighter health and readiness. Our stations are becoming old, and a lot of our fire alerting systems are starting to phase out. It's hard to get replacement parts, and they're becoming unreliable to a certain extent. So with some of the money that we've been using to do the Fire Station 2 renovation and upgrades, we're looking at using the rest to start making these improvements in our stations and with dispatch to be more reliable and to kind of modernize how we get information to our personnel when a 911 emergency comes in, and how we do it in a safe and healthy manner as they're stationed all across the city. Complete a standards of coverage assessment to evaluate community risk, service demands, deployment strategies, and future resource needs. This is long overdue. The last one has been 20 plus years. So this is something we're going to be tackling this year as part of our strategic plan. It's really a data-driven study to kind of analyze the services we provide, the demands, and the kind of prepare for the future growth of this city, and help us make more informed decisions with staffing and deployment of resources. Some of the challenges and initiatives, kind of the bottom three there, the need to develop a long-term PPE replacement and equipment sustainability plan. The turnouts that we wear, the air packs that we wear, these are, they don't last forever, and they have a shelf life to them. Right now, we don't have funding mechanisms to be able to rotate and safely provide these and replace them. So looking at how are we going to tackle this? This is going to be a challenge for us moving forward. Another challenge, maintaining staffing levels at each of our fire stations. And I have right there on our truck 3 with a decreasing budget and expiration of our SAFER grant. So as you're well aware, our SAFER grant expired in mid-March, and that's been paying for 3 firefighters to staff our ladder truck at Station 3. So, but as budget's going down, we're making cuts. We're also inheriting our budget, having to pay for firefighters. So how now are we going to, be creative and keep our staffing in our firehouses? And then capacity of resources versus the demand. That's always going to be the challenge in public safety. Chief Runyon faces that as well as I. There's a high demand on our services. And how the resources that we have to meet those demands as they continue to increase. Kind of wanted to end on some of the accomplishments. So we exceeded NFPA and ISO training benchmarks. Our personnel, close to 15,000 hours of training last year. We continue to see this number climb. We have a young, energetic group, and it's all about succession planning and mentorship. And they're very hungry and passionate about the job. So very proud of that number, and that number is only going to continue to climb. That second point right there, expanding department training capabilities with a new training tower and a 2-story Connex training structure for live fire, rescue, ventilation, forcible entry, confined space, trench, scenario-based training. if you've had an opportunity to go out Station 4, you're starting to see our training ground comes to life. That's in large part to this group who's invested in us and allowed us to start building this out. This is going to be the future for our group. And we're very close to kind of hosting like a kickoff where you can come out and check it out, where all the equipment's there, and we're just kind of doing fine-tuning some of the last little projects out there. But very excited about that as an accomplishment. Completed critical facility improvements at Fire Station 2, the dorm expansion, and some of the station infrastructure upgrades that have been happening there. And the last one, we achieved early compliance with the regional medical priority dispatch system, ProQA, as you're aware, ahead of the January 1st, 2027 state requirement. What I will say about this topic is all agencies are required in California to have emergency EMD for dispatch and data collection, and how dispatchers receive calls, how they talk to people that are calling, and how they kind of track information and data. So we're well ahead of that. ProQA does all of that, as well as kind of the call prioritization. And we're looking and kind of gathering all the data and looking at the next phase of what this program can do, but we're well ahead of schedule here in Yuba City. So that's all I really have for right now. I'll turn it over to the others, and thank you, and I appreciate it.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Doug Libby with Development Services. Talk to you a little bit about economic development. So, due to the current city fiscal condition, we did cancel the recruitment of our business development manager position. You saw the numbers, reductions that the city's making. It just didn't seem appropriate to complete the recruitment for that position. So duties of that are going to be assumed by some by the city manager, some by myself as Development Services Director. Over the winter and into spring, you're familiar with the economic visioning that was done by the firm Perkins Eastman. And it was actually exciting to see people get excited about what's possible for our community. And based upon that feedback, that excitement, it's led to us to start phase 2 of that visioning with Perkins Eastman. We're going to be partnering with local landowners as well as the county to move forward on a number of initiatives. One is the old Kmart site, where we've had some discussions with Sutter County. We're going to continue to have dialogue with them about how to move forward with that property that is owned by the county. One of the sites identified as an opportunity site in our economic visioning was a piece of property. It's located east of Cooper, south of Reeves, north of Bridge, and just west of Plumas Street. It kind of has an industrial look on it. You've got Sutter Orchard Supply there. You've got, I think it's Pace Supply there also. Has an industrial feel to it, but was one of those properties that Perkins Eastman identified that you could really do a lot with, and you could mix up a lot of different uses there, commercial, possibly some residential, with leaving some of the uses in place and just have a really diverse mix of uses there. You could draw more people to our downtown. And the nice thing is, on the north side of that property is the unused Union Pacific Railroad. And as you know, that rail line going through our community let's be honest, it's kind of an eyesore. We would love to get a hold of that right away, make it something that our community and our neighbors value. And so that's one effort that we are working on, and trying to find the right people at Union Pacific to have that dialogue so we can get that ultimately under city control, and so we could make something special out of that would tie our community together. That railroad right-of-way is really almost like a backbone through our community, and it could really help bring the community together, and there's different opportunity sites along there. The other thing we heard back from the economic visioning was the regional sports complex. You know, not a lot gets kind of almost unanimous positive feedback on social media. That did. That really showed what our community really supports and wants to see. As staff, we heard that. I think you as council have heard that loud and clear. So we are working on different initiatives to try to make something happen with that. So the reference to the Downtown Business Association agreement, the city manager will talk a little bit about that more in a few moments. Another thing I wanted to touch base with you as far as economic development was, as you know, the city receives an allocation from the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, annually. I think this year, the upcoming allocation to our city is going to be about $650,000. It fluctuates. But we're going to be looking at how we expend those funds and what kind of return on investment are we getting for that money? How can we align that with the city's needs, contribute to economic development, revitalize low-mod income areas, and encourage infill development? So we're going to be looking at our strategic plan, and I hope to, when we bring forward the next year's allocation, you're going to see some of these elements start to come into how we're going to spend those funds. The last, certainly not least, is the zoning code update. You've heard me tell council many times that the 1980s called, they would love to have their zoning code back. You know, we can do all the economic development in the world, but if we do not have the right policies and rules in place, we get into our own way, it creates bureaucracy, and ultimately things don't happen. And so your council had the vision to initiate the zoning code update. That is something in process. We plan to bring that forward next year. We will be doing outreach to both the development community as well as citizens to make sure we get feedback. If a standard works for the city, we're not looking to change it. But where we can streamline, where we can make the code easier to apply, that's where we want to make some real progress. So with that, I would then turn it over to my colleague, Josh Wolf in Public Works. Thank you.
And while Josh is making his way up there, Mr. Mayor, if I can just comment on the Downtown Business Association and that agreement. Thank you. With Council Members Shaw and Vice Mayor Pasquale, their districts cover that downtown. And in discussions with them, you know, reviewing over the last year, the DBA has always been a great partner with the city. And they hold numerous events throughout the year, from the Christmas stroll to the summer stroll to the Easter bunny hunt or whatever it is, not hunting for Easter bunnies, but candy, I guess. Car shows and numerous other events that they have down there, the farmers markets on every other Thursday. And, you know, we get asked for sponsorships for the city stroll, Christmas stroll, and all those events combined that they do draw thousands of people into the city for tourism and helps promote economic development. And so we thought, instead of all those one-offs where they have to go to customer service, they come to our office and they have to fill out these forms, and then we provide services down there such as the planters, the flower planters, and you know, cleaning the sidewalks and occasional power washing, and the list goes on and on. But why not come up with one agreement that we can be inclusive of all those, put all that funding in there, turn over some of the responsibilities to the DBA that will help enhance some of those events that they put on. And it truly is, again, you've heard me refer to it as the heartbeat of the city. But we're working on that agreement. We're getting pretty close. Money's been allocated in this proposed budget to the tune of about a little over $95,000. But again, those are costs that are already primarily being spent. But it also provides some additional, and in the agreement, they'll be asked to do certain things as a DBA in concert with the city. So that's in progress, and we're very pleased to have that partnership with the DBA. But we believe it's a great investment for economic development, having that partner moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm going to start tonight off talking about capital improvement projects. For the upcoming fiscal year, we're looking at So we have about 9 separate fund sources that we utilize for capital improvement programs. You have general fund, Transportation Development Act, streets and roads, development impact fees, water, wastewater, federal grants as a category, state grants, including state revolving fund loans, community development block grants, and other sources. We break that down further by specifically what category each project serves. So in general fund, or not general fund, in general related projects, we're requesting $123,000 in funding. Facilities projects specific to different facilities throughout the city, $195,000. Community services, so specifically parks related projects, $300,000. Public safety, $185,000. Streets and roads, we are requesting $9.59 million. Water improvements, $11.15 million, and wastewater, $14.84. And I will delve into some project highlights for each one of these categories. So for the community services project, one project we want to highlight was the Hillcrest Park playground replacement. Typically, we strive to replace playground at any park on a 20-year basis. That's typically the useful life of a playground equipment. With Hillcrest Park, it's one of the largest, or actually it is the largest play structure throughout the city. That being said, we needed to bank funds or bank dollars for a few more years to get adequate budget to replace the playground. The current age is about 27 years of the playground equipment there. We currently have funding in the amount of $263,000. We're requesting another $200,000 to be able to afford replacement of the entire structure. As you can see here, we have a rendering of the structure. We're looking at full replacement of the structure, including a new zip line feature. Lots of inclusive features here. Swings for those with ADA disabilities, parent and child swings, and a very large structure that has a lot of, I like to call it playability, a lot of variety in the play structure here. Regarding pavement repair projects, I've highlighted a number of different projects. And you'll see here on the map on the right, a few different types of projects. Annually, we have about $4 million in revenue that we'd receive towards funding for capital improvement road projects. So I'll just go down this list. The green color you see is the 2026 resurfacing project. In some of the community outreach meetings that we've held, I've explained the difference in costs between different types of road repair projects. So we only have we only have about $4 million a year to actually improve road conditions. How do we stretch that as far as we can? One of the methods we have is through resurfacing projects. Now, resurfacing projects, they're not quite grinding down, repaving the entire roadway. It's a little bit of preventative maintenance work combined with spot repairs. So this year's resurfacing project, we have estimated at $1.7 million. That's about $265,000 per mile of roadway. With that project, we are addressing some repairs in residential areas throughout the city. So in the Terra Buena area, in the northeast portion of Yuba City, some improvements to Civic Center, south of 20 between Gray and Cooper, south of Bridge Street, between Bridge and B Street in Franklin, a couple of other residential areas down here, and then one other residential area to the south of town. For major pavement projects, a couple that we wanted to highlight were the Bogue Road widening. This project does have a high dollar value, but that's also because it's not a repair project. It's also a roadway widening that will support the incoming Newcomb Ranch development. So that road section is on Bogue Road between State Route 99 and Railroad Avenue. As said, you're not only overlaying and creating better conditions for the existing road, you're building new infrastructure for basically another half of the road to support the new development. So the estimated cost for that project is $9 million. Walton Avenue, this is the one that Wade is cheering for over there. He's been waiting for a long time. It's a pretty lengthy project from the Sam's Club intersection south to Hazel Avenue, so nearly down to Bogue Road. It's about 2.5 miles of road to be rehabilitated, including some safe routes to school improvements adjacent to AK and Lincoln Elementary, new sidewalk, widening for bike lanes. There will be buffered bike lanes throughout the entire corridor, and we're looking at upgrading the all traffic signal controllers along that corridor. So the cost for that project is more in alignment with a typical road rehabilitation project, 4.9 million total, about 2 million per mile. I wanted to highlight a couple near-term projects. So the Walton Avenue and Bogue will be happening later this year, closer to fall, starting construction time. The near-term paving projects, we just want to highlight some projects that we have received grant funds for that the public has been very vocal about, and we just want to make sure we're letting everyone know, we heard you, we have received funding, and we are working on the design for them. So Garden Highway, between Lincoln Road and Bogue Road, one of the worst roadways in our roadway network, we received grant funding to the tune of about $4.9 million. We're working through design right now and hoping that that project will be in construction in 2027. That will be the pavement repair we're currently looking at is called a full depth reclamation. More or less, it's completely reconstructing the roadway. George Washington, another one we received grant funding through SACOG. That project, primarily road rehabilitation, fixing the failed areas, but also widening the roadway to accept bike lanes. That one's about 1.8 million, or 1.9 million. So as I mentioned before, Walton Avenue, talked about the scope quite a bit already, but I did want to highlight the majority of the funding for that project is through grants. We received 1.2 million in funds from the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Grants, federal fund. Another federal fund from Surface Transportation Block Grant Program and 3.1 million, and then we have a local match of 900,000. Garden Highway. This project, we received 4.3 million through the Surface Transportation Improvement Program. It will have a local match of 565,000. Status on that one, working on design through the end of this year and hoping for construction next year. And then the last project we wanted to highlight, this one's a bit, this one is a pretty substantial one. We are looking at conducting a major pavement repair project. We're looking at updating our citywide inventory of the pavement conditions, looking at designing and constructing a major road repair project to the tune of $12 to $14 million. That would be a bond-funded project. And then beyond that, developing a 5-year plan for resurfacing projects such that our engineering team does not have to recreate the wheel each year. We would have a plan for the next 5 years of what the roads would be, so we just have to put the project out to bid. So currently, we are in the consultant procurement phase, be in that section from now until summer. Then once the consultant is secured, we will be performing pavement condition index updates, analyzing the data, then going into design for the major $12 to $14 million project, beginning the project in summer of 2027, and then each year after that for the following 5 years, implementing annual resurfacing projects. Utilities, Kevin spoke to this one a bit earlier in the meeting, but the Outfall Diffuser project is one of the biggest highlights that we could think of. Nearly $62 million project. Through the Prop 218 proceedings, we were able to secure the SRF loan funding in the amount of $50 million. We're going to continue to seek alternative funding to offset any impact costs. Current status is design and construction. This slide shows 27 to 28, but to be more accurate with Kevin's slides, we are looking into 2029 for completion. And with that, I will hand it back to Robert.
Thank you, Josh. And Council, I know I've gone over some of the fiscal responsibility items so far, so I'll make quick work of it. We've talked about reserves and contingencies. So in your preliminary budget that's delivered to you for approval today, you'll see a reserve balance in a fund that is $1 million. And you'll see contingencies of $500,000. So our hope, and we think we can get there, maybe to 3 or 3.5 million, but we have to see how the year closes. But right now, that's what we're targeting, that your starting reserve balance will be about $3.5 million in case of emergencies. You could use it, plus an additional $500,000 in contingencies. That's our hope. And the budget that's presented to you tonight, it's only $1 million in reserves, 500 in contingencies. But when the fiscal year closes out, we think we'll be able to transfer some fund balance and make appropriate use of it by putting it in reserves where it sits until it's absolutely needed. And again, we talked about liquidity and all that moving forward. So before I get into budget service impacts, that kind of, will provide a wrap to this, I wanted to take a few minutes and just tell you, you saw our executive team here present some really critical information, but also I think good news information, that your council has planned accordingly, that, hey, listen, we recognize that we can't fill all of our positions, we can't do every project that we want to, but you need to continue making investments. And the investments that we're recommending fall in line with what I've heard as your council priorities are. We tried to encapsulate that here. If we missed the mark, please tell us. But from Sierra to our police chief, to our fire chief, to community services director, and on, we can't do this in silos. This has to be done as a system. And if we don't do this as a system, you will fail. You'll fail the residents of Yuba City, and you'll fail your employees. And the tact and approach that your city council has taken was keep everybody together, work it as a system, find solutions together. I'll give you, for instance, Chief Runyon or Chief Hubbard's initiatives with Tablet Command, which is an officer safety issue for our firefighters, the RIMS component, CAD, that's a safety issue for our police officers. But none of that's possible without a good, solid information technology division that supports all of that, installs all of that, takes the project lead on all of those fronts, determines on how to best implement all of our tools and resources we need. And let's face it, all 330 of our employees now come in and they touch technology every day. Again, so it's all part of that system. They can't hire folks unless they have Gina over in HR and her staff. We can't write people's payroll checks unless we have finance. We can't handle customers coming and paying their bills unless we have customer service at the front counter. So that list goes on. And carrying out your direction, the city manager's office, risk management, and all of the other large projects that I didn't mention here tonight, that your city staff in the tens of millions of dollars, we covered some of them. Our engineering team over in Josh's shop is just overwhelmed because of all the projects we have coming up. But that's because of the advocacy of not only your executive team, but your council, through SACOG, through other organizations that you belong to. You're advocating for grant dollars and getting additional money pumped in. I think it's money that we give to the state and get back, but but we still have to advocate for it, just like every other jurisdiction. So pretty emphatic about that point, that there's a lot happening, and you have probably the least amount of resources you've had in years as far as staff, but they're doubling up and making sure they carry out your priorities. And I'm so lucky to work with this group. So when we come to budget and service impacts, we still have the gap pool closure from September through January that is staying in effect. We're unfunding or deleting positions. The reduction in operating hours stays the same. We eliminated this current year some recreational programs. No cost of living increases since 23-24 for your employees. Somehow we're going to have to figure that into our business plan in the upcoming years, because that type of sustainability doesn't work. How we do that, I don't know yet, but we're in discussions with labor units, as you heard or you saw on your agenda tonight and participated in closed session. So budget impacts due to general fund shortfall. There's no general fund contributions to our capital improvement projects this year. That's cut off for this year, at least what we're recommending. A reduction in one-time funding sources. Hard hiring freeze with the modified process that Gina talked about. We reduced extra help employees and professional development for some staff. We paused the city sponsorships and donations, at least for this upcoming year, and we'll see what we have coming soon thereafter. The recommended investments. You've heard about all these. I'm not going to go over them again. One, I will tell you, Doug and I had talked about this. It's just the condition of the city. We can't afford to have blight everywhere and people dumping trash, regardless of the source. And so we had this program where I think they came in quarterly, right, under contract, and they serve this greater Sacramento region. They're all trained how to do this. They come clean up junk and people that just dump. We went from quarterly to we budgeted for monthly, I believe, coming up. So they come up, they have targeted areas, and we go clean up. So our city looks better. Looks better for people coming in, wanting to make an investment here, and we don't look like, a different country or city, whatever you want to call it. So you see these investments, and we've talked about some of those. Some more of the recommended investments, obviously in our risk management program. Sierra is doing a great job. And now that we've kind of isolated it, we had it in the finance department. It came out of finance. There's just a lot of responsibilities in that department. And risk management just was a weird fit. So we took it to the city manager's office under Sierra's guidance, and we're making some great progress. And we took the employee that was handling some of the risk management over to our office. Talked about the DBA. This will be the first year that we've had a legislative lobbyist. I've been in contact with them some, but most likely next week we'll be talking about when Christy returns to our office from an extended leave, we'll be talking about creating our legislative platform and what your priorities are before the council. Reserves, GIS resources, we already talked about. So we gave you the highlights of what we're spending our money on, but the things that we're going after, grant applications. People think, geez, you're spending, $60 million in your general fund. What, is that all you do? Well, no, absolutely not. Again, as a system, we approach these and we make sure they work. So grants that we were awarded, and if you think it's for the faint of heart, you're dead wrong. Not only the grant applications, but the grant discussions with the funding agency and all the bells and whistles that you have to do. Believe me, it is I'm not gonna do that. But wherever you apply for grants, it is just a challenge. And then if you get awarded the grant, maybe in months or several months or maybe even a year, you get the grant, then there's maybe a share of costs, and you have to figure that out. And then you have to figure out all the rules that you have to follow in the audits when you get these grants. And it just goes on and on. So applying for these aren't easy, but look at what we've been awarded. $26.9 million for your residents in Yuba City. That is fantastic. We'd like to have more, yes, but what's our capacity to go out and get that? Yeah, we have a grant writing firm that kind of helps us with things. We have a couple grant writing experts, but staff still has to produce all the information and help put it together, submit it to the right agency, search for these grants, et cetera. $27 million. That is a great job by these directors and their teams of getting that money, and also by the efforts of the council, because we need your ideas and your muscle quite a bit of the time to encourage these funding agencies to make sure they cut a little check our way, right? Not just the big cities. Pending applications, as you can see here, we have over 50 million in pending applications that we've applied for. So you take this, 27 million, plus another 50 million that we've applied for. We are trying our damnedest to get money into this city the best we can. So, and that's the total. Thanks for forwarding that for me. My thumb went to sleep or something, yeah. So as you can see here, the pending applications continued almost $60 million worth. So your team is not sitting on their hands, and neither is the city council. We are going after money where we can get it. Some people say, well, geez, if you get all these, that solves your budget problem, right? by a whole bunch. Well, these funds are restricted. And sometimes I think folks have a challenging time understanding that you can only use these funds for the purposes that the grant is for. We can't just take a SACOG federal funding cycle grant for Tharp Road preservation and use it at the police department. It doesn't work that way. So hopefully folks will have a better understanding in the future, because unfortunately people get critical about that, and it's not easy to understand. So in summary, your projected deficit going into this fiscal year of 26-27 is a lot, 7.8 million, best way I can define it. But we've gotten it down to about 2.2. So considerable drop, but that didn't come without a lot of pain and a lot of sacrifices that were made by your executive team. Most important part I'll leave with you is they did it together. Through your encouragement and the way you want this city to look and operate, we hope we're living up to that bill that your council has set for us. So that's all I have for tonight. I know it was a long way to get there, but I think it's very important that we combine this with our strategic planning and the priorities that your council has set out to do. So these are your recommendations. I'm not going to read them. You see them before you. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and then also that of our executive team as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brendorf. Councilmember Cole, we'll start with you. Any questions? Comments? You want to do comments later?
I have a lifesaver in my mouth.
Okay.
Wasn't expecting to go first, but that's okay.
That's why I picked you.
I don't have comments. I thank you all so much. It's nights like this that remind me how impressively professional and expert that you all are. You've done such a good job. Making these decisions is not easy. Coming down 5.7, right? And deficit is something that we all ran for. You know, we want to be fiscally responsible. And I am just very grateful to you, Robert, and the E-team. And I hope that citizens see this tonight. I hope they continue to be informed and become more informed at how crucial it is to invest in your city. And that return on investment is huge. You know, it improves our quality of life. We do need revenue sources, and we do need to offset the increasing cost of exorbitant state mandates and laws and things like that. So I'm in full support of this budget, and I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
It's been a lot of heavy lifting. I want to thank the three that weren't on the ad hoc for taking and valuing the mayor's and my input, because we deviated away a little bit of the way we came about to this budget, and putting your confidence in us. I appreciate that. And this is a very well-honed machine that we have here right now, that they're doing what's necessary to get us to where we need to be. And I can't say enough about we need revenue. It's just a reality of what every community in this state is facing. And I think Robert put it best, is we send the state our money and then hope that we get some of it back. And I think the citizens of this community need to be aware of that they hold our purse strings, and we do everything we can to squeeze every dollar out of efficiency that we can. And with that, I yield.
Okay. Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the first thing I want to start is with the ad hoc, because I do have one thing I want to address with you guys. Due to the excitement from District 4 about Walton, I think we can go back and reallocate that $4 million. There's 5 districts. I mean, I'm just, kind of shooting from the hip here. No, it's getting serious here. Heavy load. Thank you guys for carrying it. You want to look at what was presented tonight, and there's a part of you just wants to go, oh crap, because it's not pretty. But I will tell you, I'm actually more energized after this presentation tonight than I am worried or in dismay. And it all has to do with exactly what Mr. Bendorf talked about. What I know myself, and I think the mayor has wanted for 7 years being at this dais. We wanted an executive team that worked together, didn't run in silos, understood that we were all here together to work for the good of the city. And we've heard different terms over the years with right sizing, cutting the budgets. We're not funding these things. Well, then why are they in the budget? We haven't funded them in 15 years, or all these different things going on. And it's a relief to know that that is finally coming together. And it's exciting to watch how our executive team and the leadership came together to really look and prioritize and go, we all want to get to the same place, and we're going to get there together. And when I look at last year, you look at stages of life. Last year, we had to learn to crawl all over again. And what I see this year is we're up walking. And so give it another 12 to 24 months and we'll be running. We've laid the foundation for the future. It's not going to be easy, but I am seriously energized by what I see. And after setting up here for 7.5 years, I think this is probably, in my opinion, the best strategic, well-thought, heartfelt budget presentation I've seen in 7.5 years. So I want to say thank you. And as I said many months ago, you have my trust. You guys are the experts. I know it wasn't easy, and I appreciate all the hard work. And to the ad hoc, still back to this District 4 thing, but I'll forgive you. But I think you guys did a great job.
He bought us pizza. Council member from District 4, Wade Kirchner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Manager. I think what everyone's heard tonight from the council is how much we appreciate staff, how much we acknowledge your time and effort and blood that went into blood, sweat, and tears that went into this to try to make this work, or to make this work. I know in the short time I've been on council, I think the first time, just as an example, the first time the Outfall Diffuser project was brought before me, and this goes back to the conversation about increasing costs. I remember that number being about half of what it is now. And, you know, when you talk about the big ticket items like that, and this isn't a need, it's not a want, it's a need, because this is the state of California saying, you got to have this. And that's just one project, by the way. But I do want to say how professional our staff is and continues to be, and how much I appreciate them. So, and I do support this budget as provided. So thank you.
Thanks. So first and foremost, to the department heads and city manager, to you and your staff, and Deanna, if you're out there in TV land, to you too. And, you know, putting a budget together is not an easy endeavor. Putting a budget together when you're staring down the double barrel of you know, not enough revenue to cover required expenses is always, I think, very, very stressful and very tough. And it's been said here, and I'll say it as well, thank you for working together to put together a budget that I think does a lot for what the city wants us to do. There's a lot more we all want to do, but I think this allows us to do things that we can do with the ability to pay for those services. This potentially could be my last budget approval. I've been at this now for 7+ years, along with Dave. And, you know, it's never easy. We have, as a council, moved through a couple years of COVID where we were just trying to keep the doors open And now we're dealing again with increasing expense costs. I did some quick calculations. I don't know if you know this, but over the last 5 years, the cost of living increases at 24%. And so cities up and down the state are having to face the same thing we are. And believe me, there's a lot written about that. That doesn't make it better or worse, but it just means that we have company. Why is that? And I think the vice mayor has made comments about this. I think we would all agree a lot of what happens with the money that we send down to Sacramento, 45 miles down the road, does not come back. However, they don't seem to have a problem telling us how we should provide extra service, but not pay us to do that. And there are things looming in this coming budget year that are going to be the same. So managing through uncertain revenues and trying to provide services and listening to the public that demands a certain level of service, that's what we all signed up for. And we are trying to do that to the best of our ability. And I do think that we are doing that to the best of our ability. I have a lot of confidence in staff. I have a lot of confidence in this council to continue to move forward. We are putting our money where we believe that our citizens want that. And I think Mr. Bendorf mentioned that. The roads, public safety, water and sewer. We are also trying to deal with quality of life issues, and that's where we get into the parks and our recreation activities. Those are important things as well. But you saw some of the cuts that are going to be need to be made, and that's unfortunate. I would much rather be up here adding services than deleting them. But at the same time, we have been tasked and have agreed to manage budget within our means, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we are doing, actually. So I want to thank the vice mayor, too, for sitting on the ad hoc committee and committing the time for that. And I echo his appreciation for the council giving us the confidence to work through all that and present to you for your consideration this budget. And with that, and before we get into any motions, I'd certainly like to hear any comments from the public if there are any. Please. You need to, if you don't mind, please, sir, could you go to the podium?
Mr. Pasquale, I agree with you. Revenue is important. City manager, I like everything you said. Money is important. It's an issue. I have a piece of property, and I've been here before, and I'm trying to get something established here and trying to do a safety thing. I see the book here that you guys have for the city for enhanced emergency preparedness. I have a piece of property on 299. I've been here before, and I need to have water. I don't have water access to it. I have trees that are dying, trees that are down. I'm cutting them up, and I have another tree that's dead. And I have some fence repair that I have to do. I bought that property as an investment, and I want to keep it clean, and I don't have water access to it. I don't understand why everything is all hooked up, and the prior owner has some debris out in the back, and I want to have it hauled off, but I can't get someone in there to move it due to the fact that the grass is dead, and I don't have water. I have neighbors to the right, neighbors to the left. That's along the levee. And my concern is a fire. That's my number one concern being 4th of July. If a fire breaks out, I don't know what's going to happen. But that's my concern. I just need water. I bring water from where I live in Knights Landing to water the trees and to use pesticides. I would like to hook up the water and pay the revenue, whatever it costs. I spoke with the city or the water district, and they came out there, they looked at it, it's ready to go, and I was denied. I don't understand why. I like to keep the sprinklers there. I would like to keep the grass green so that I can prevent a fire from happening. Right now, it's just a fire hazard. I do have homeless people going in there because the fence is not in great shape, but I do want to repair it. And I see homeless people staying there, and they stay there, and if they catch a fire, that's just it. I don't want what happened in Southern California to occur here. Why did we not have water there? Why did I not have water there? I don't want to answer that, and I don't think anyone here does. I don't sleep very well. So I got a piece of paper from the Director of Development, and it's showing the permitted areas that do have access to a building, have a barn there. I have trees, orchards, I have fruit trees, and I don't have any crop, but I have fruit trees, and I bring water to water the trees. One tree is dead, it's gonna have to come down. One's already on the ground, I've already taken another one out. And I need water to keep those trees alive. One's dead, it's gonna come down, and I'm afraid it's gonna cause damage. So that's all I have to say.
Sir, could I have your name, please, so that we can get it?
My name is Raymond Lamelli.
Thank you.
And the property is on 299 2nd Street. It's on the corner where Garden and 2nd Street meet. But I was told to get some water from my neighbors, but if it's okay to get water from my neighbors, why can't the city provide me with the water that I need? It's an investment. I have people wanting to buy my property. I got to remove the debris, and someday either I would like to build on it, but I'd need to at least clean it up. I have pictures. I do have your card, and I'll send you the pictures that I have.
Mr. Mayor.
I want to keep it clean. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
And just a reminder to the public, this is a budget item. Thank you.
Okay, no other public, we do have someone.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of your comments about the budget items. Just speaking as a dad, I think all of us have been in a position where we've had to look at budgets and cut things, and it's not comfortable to do that. But they have to be done, and the responsibility. And when I hear the words visibility, accountability, that's a love language for me as a dad, as a taxpayer, so I appreciate that. Also excited about the visioning for the future. I do have kids. I want to see that investment moving forward in a community that I love and I call home. And when there's vision, when there's ideas of making this community and the people and the businesses that we love attractive for others to come and to set up commerce here, love it. Thank you very much for serving our community, to all of you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's bring it back to the council.
Well, we'll make this easy. Through the mayor. Move to approve the proposed fiscal 26-27 operating budget, as well as the fiscal year 26-27 CIP budget that was presented tonight.
Second.
Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw and a second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 12 passes unanimously, and we will go to item number 13.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for your patience. I know we went a little bit longer, but a lot of things we needed to tie in tonight. And I will also tell you, and this is far before the public, you know, when you produce a budget document, and I've produced probably a couple dozen of them over my career, they are complicated. Schedules are defined by the state of California of what we put in there, how it looks, and not one of them looks the same. And so I've had a very refreshing, being in my hometown where I grew up this last year, invited people to come in. I know several of the council members have been part of those discussions where they've had questions about the budget. Why does that say that? Or why is that money there? Why is there too much money there? It should be moved over to here. I have loved those discussions, and I love the engagement of this community. They were great questions, but when they come in and we talk about it, they understand it a lot better. And so that interaction with your residents, constituents here has been fascinating and something that you don't get everywhere, but that's people that are concerned about their community and they want to see the best for it. So I invite those folks, if they want to come in and talk about it, about what it looks like, why that money's there, hey, anytime, address doesn't change. So that's it.
Item 13.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Gina Rowland, Human Resources Director. This item is to implement the position and salary changes that you just approved in the budget for fiscal year 26-27. It's somewhat of a cleanup item. So the recommended action is to amend the salary schedule to take a number of actions. It does a number of things. One is that it abolishes the class titles of police records clerk lead and administrative manager, as those are two titles that are no longer used in the department. It changes the title for Parks and Grounds Superintendent to Park Maintenance Superintendent, as it was just reflected incorrectly on the 9-step salary schedule. It also adjusts the salary for city manager by $10 a year. It's needed to resolve a pay rate rounding issue in the city's new Tyler HR payroll system. As part of the budget, the police department submitted, or the police department's budget included the funds needed to adjust the salary for police services analyst, and that's because the position's duties have changed significantly since the position was originally established. It now involves significant work in areas such as professional level administrative work in budget development, financial administration and reporting, contract administration, management analysis. And these duties are consistent with those duties performed by administrative analysts in departments in the city. So the staff recommends that the salary for police services analysts be adjusted to be equivalent with an administrative analyst 1, and that's reflected in the proposed salary schedule. In addition, we've created a class title called Deputy City Manager that will have overall responsibility for administrative functions in the city manager's office. It will provide high-level support to the city manager in a number of areas, and so that recommended salary range is in the proposed salary schedule. It's not a new position, it's just a new class title. A new position, however, in one of the 1.75 new positions that were added in the budget is a GIS analyst. So this recommended action approves the salary for that new position. The recommended salary is set at the same range as the city's existing information technology analyst. And then Human Resources has evaluated its existing positions. Presently, Human Resources uses administrative analyst class titles that are general analyst classes used in a number of city departments, instead of the industry-specific HR analyst classes that are used in most, if not all, HR departments. So the recommendation is to create an HR Analyst 1 class that is, the salary is the same as the Administrative Analyst 1 class, an HR Analyst 2 with the salary set the same as the Administrative Analyst 2. And we've reallocated our existing authorized positions to the HR Analyst positions, but there's no recommendation to reclassify the incumbent HR Analyst. As those positions are vacated and refilled in the future, we'd like to refill them at the HR Analyst title. And then the last recommendation for HR Analyst or Human Resources is to create a Human Resources Manager class that will, we're reclassifying our Administrative Analyst 3 position to a Human Resources Manager, which will more appropriately classify the incumbent for the duties that she's been performing for well over a year. Lastly, it's recommended that the City Council approve the city's salary schedule in its entirety, and that will ensure that the city is meeting our legal requirement that employees' compensation is based on a publicly available pay schedule that's approved and adopted by the employer's governing body in compliance with public meeting laws. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Any questions? Okay, any public comment? Seeing none, back to the city council.
The mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve business item 13, A and B, as presented by staff.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kirchner, a second by Councilmember Shaw. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item 13 passes unanimously. Move to item 15, future agenda items. Anything anyone wants to bring forward?
The mayor?
Yes.
I'd like for the council to entertain, maybe not necessarily the next council meeting, but one of the next two council meetings, to have for one of us to reach out to the director of the mission over in Marysville to discuss the latest goings-ons over there and what's happening.
Got that? All right. Anything else? All right. Seeing nothing. Reports, communications, Mr. Bendorf, number 16.
Talked enough. I'm good.
All right. City council reports. I don't have a list, so because I picked on you first last time, I'll pick on Wade first.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to keep this brief. Attended the PD Quarterly Awards. It was great to see staff getting recognition for their hard work. Mosquito vector, because of President Schmidl's retirement, we've got a new president, new vice president, and a secretary. We did the preliminary budget approval for fiscal year 26-27, and we're gearing up for the summer. Gilsheiser was canceled due to lack of a quorum. Lastly, the Homelessness Consortium had a on-site meeting at 14 Ford over in Marysville, which happens to be next to the said mission, and the mission director over there put on a presentation, which I really think is really interesting. That's why I'm hoping the council will entertain having a presentation. But to keep it in a nutshell, one of the things that they're moving forward right now is, if they get the funding, is creating a facility for women. And that's a huge game changer, because up until now they haven't had that. And lastly, don't forget that this Saturday is the stroll. Is that right? And happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Had the DBA monthly meeting. They're gearing up for the stroll, but also we entertained and kind of talked to them about taking pride and ownership of the downtown in conjunction with the city. And that's in line with the MOU and everything that we're looking at going forward. So recap from last time, attended transit. I've already updated Councilmember Kirchner to the request I made on behalf of him without him knowing. But put it in a nutshell, rising costs are continue to go up. And if you're not familiar with it, but transit is a heavily subsidized program. And that comes through the LTF funding, and they're increasing the draw from the cities on the LTF funding. And I encouraged Mr. Mock to start looking at raising rates over time versus just depleting the LTF, because we don't want our transit becoming like a lot of the others, like Sac Metro and BART and everything else. The other thing is with the mod vehicles, we also entertained that. What they've talked about is this the last mile transportation to get people that are on the outskirts into the transit system. A couple of years ago, when I was on the board, we voted to put that out in the underserved area of Olivehurst. And it is not paying for itself. It basically boils down to, pardon the French, but butts in the seats. And so with that, they're looking at redesigning that level of service. And it was eventually going to be brought to Yuba City. So I encourage Mr. Mock to maybe look at a hybrid approach with that and maybe introduce it into, at least on a small scale, to Yuba City, maybe Marysville, to where there is more opportunities for more butts in the seats to keep that program alive. Sabufka, we got great news. We thought we were in real trouble with the Afterbay project, and we talked about that at this past week's meeting. And lo and behold, on I think it was Thursday, the governing agency that we were waiting on to just go, hey, you got the thumbs up, let's do it, gave us their approval, so it is moving forward. All the other projects are moving forward right on task. Had the opportunity to go to Precision One for their anniversary and the ribbon cutting and celebration after hours. All great. Keith does some great work down there, great business and a great friend of the city. And then lastly, I had the honor of attending, I want to call him Assemblyman, but it's now Congressman James Gallagher's ceremonial swearing in today and represent our area with our congressman, because the good news, folks, is we're no longer not represented because we have Congressman Gallagher at the helm now. And it's great to have someone that fights for our area in that seat. I will leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
Okay, so my report's, some of it's old news, but I think we all cut our reports short last time. So I'll just say I appreciate getting a chance to sit at the table at SACOG for Mayor Boomgarden. We spoke of a lot of what Councilmember Shaw spoke of now, which is transit and just the fiscal cliff that many municipalities and regions are facing, challenges with ridership routes, cost of doing business, safety, the subsidies, revenue sources. Representative came out from Washington, D.C. and gave a very thorough and extensive report on the state of affairs all over the country. So it was really informative, and I just appreciated being there. So thank you for having me go. Last month, I attended a conference that I'm still compiling notes for. It was very overwhelming, but also very worthwhile, called Strong Towns. And so really the philosophy there is just how to be resourceful and creative in getting citizens to move to help cities with being small business ready, funding for big and small projects, really a lot of talk about community, making things happen from the ground up. So it was definitely worthwhile. And I'll just finish. I could probably go on way too long if I start talking about 4th of July, but as a history teacher, it's not common for a civilization to grow and thrive and still be thriving after 250 years. And so I think this year, if any, we have to celebrate in gratitude that our founding fathers sacrificed so much, and so have many generations that have come before us, but they very much secured the blessings of liberty for us. And I think that we all should celebrate that and just be so grateful. I've been a lot of places, and this will and always be my favorite one. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is we are going to be celebrating the 4th of July at the fairgrounds. The city is part of the large area group. I hope you all pass the word on and attend. I think it's going to be a very good program, and I think it'll bring the community together. And with that, I conclude my report.
All right. It's been pretty busy, so bear with me here. At Regional Housing Authority, just to let you all know, we had approved expanding the Regional Housing Authority to to Lake County, and that was thwarted when the city of Colusa voted no. So there are some things going on in the background that we are trying to do. Lake County just wants to take advantage of being in a bigger regional housing authority, or part of the economies of scale that go with that. So more to come on that. I attended the celebration of life for a retired Yuba City Fire Chief, William Burke, over the weekend. You may recall he lived to a very robust, still at 102 years life, and our fire department, I want to tell you, Chief, your folks showed up, made it a very good impression, and helped that ceremony a lot, and it sent him off in a very dignified manner. Thank them for their work and for you. There's a lot of things going on at Beale. I think a lot of us are going to be heading out to Beale tomorrow. Colonel McLeese, his change of command happens tomorrow. There's other honorary commanders that are leaving as well, so chances are that we'll be bringing in a new crop. honorary commanders that we're all interfacing with, including the base commander here in the not too distant future. The vice mayor and I sat in a meeting this morning. This we couldn't go to some of our Congressman Gallagher's. We were doing the community development block grant. Thank you, Doug. That was probably the most efficient community development block grant meeting I've ever attended, and we gave some feedback, and we'll look forward to bringing something back for the full council to deal with. Vice Mayor and I, along with the Supervisor Stevens, got to eat ribs and be judges at a River Valley High School event, thanks to Mr. Wade Kirchner. Yeah, that was good. It was messy, but it was good. Thank you for that. And it was good for the River Valley High School athletic program. Had a meeting with, we keep talking about SACOG, had a meeting up here. James Corliss, who's the executive director, met with Supervisor Baines and I, it's part of his outreach to come up and talk about what's going on. It was interesting, and Mr. Bendorf, you'll appreciate this. He's quite excited about the Perkins Eastman project. And the visioning that the city's doing. So I think we have a good ally there. And as far as my attendance at SACOG, thank you, Tony, for going. At the transportation meeting for SACOG, there's a lot of discussion. This ties into you and transit, is that there are transit, our local transit, whether it's YOLO Transit, SAC Transit, et cetera, they're looking at the fiscal cliff. And so whatever we can do to keep our local transit from hitting that, it sounds like you're way on top of that already. Been meeting with Mike Thompson and Mike Thompson's aides on two things. One is a reassessment of our BRIC grant. It was a $50 million grant to to help with this. It's called the West Feather River Valley, I can't remember the acronym, but anyway, it helps the bypass levee on our side, and that had been clawed back by the feds, and it looks like we've got some effort there, and I'm sure James will be a part of that now too. Also, working with him, trying to get some help on the Diffuser project. And I know that him and his folks have been working with the Yuba City Economic Development Corporation on some funding mechanisms. We'll stay pushing on that. Did do the PD Police Department quarterly awards, but they gave out a lot of awards and most deserved. It's good to see that. I think that's our folks are busy out there. We talked about the stroll. We also have the fair coming up June 25th through the 28th, I believe it is. At the Government Affairs Committee, I heard a presentation by Senator Dolly. She's on the Union Pacific Railroad thing too as well. And I've said a lot. Precision, Keith Burwell, it was a good presentation there. And I would like to go ahead and with the council's approval, close this meeting in memory of Mr. John McIntyre. And Mr. McIntyre is a longtime citizen of this area. There's a lot of family ties that connect here with the city of Yuba City. And we would like to close in his memory, if that's okay. And we will call this meeting adjourned.